10 years ago, the Southern Center for Human Rights launched Project Freedom, an initiative to challenge extreme prison sentences and bring people home. What began with one man's story became a decade-long movement for equality, dignity, and justice.
A little over a decade ago, we learned about Wilmart Martin.
He had been serving 24 years in prison at that time for possession of a small amount of cocaine, life without the possibility of parole.
And I never heard of that before. I'm the only person in the history of Claxton, Georgia, that had been sentenced to life without parole.
We decided to try to get involved in the case, and that case was really the start of this project. And then there was Charlie Scandrett's case in Clayton County. Mr. Scandrett was serving a 30-year without parole sentence for a minor drug conviction. And he had served 18 of the 30 years already. And we reached a resentencing agreement with the district attorney, and the judge imposed a new sentence.
The first thing the judge said, he said, "We here today to correct a wrong that we did many years ago." And so I know that I was coming home.
Mr. Scandrett was released from prison that very day. When I got to the office the next morning, the phones are ringing off the hook.
It was not only the fact that there were so many people who were serving these long sentences, it was the fact that they overwhelmingly looked like me. And so this isn't just a matter of challenging and fighting sentences that are too long. It's also a matter of fighting a perverse racial injustice in our criminal system. When we started this, we were really looking at people charged with possession of drugs. But as often the case at the Southern Center, my colleagues realized that we could do so much more.
There was an opportunity that arose to take some potential resentencing cases in New Orleans.
And it was then that I met Mike and Patrick.
I think the first thing to say about Charles is if you talk to him for 2 minutes, you realize that this is not somebody who should ever have been sentenced to life without parole.
But when the opportunity arose, everyone in the office was really excited about it.
And immediately I could feel and sense the compassion and concern for my case. Not only were they doing it for free, but they were coming from Atlanta to New Orleans every court date.
And who picked you up that day?
My daughter, the one that drives truck, Ontario, my son, Wilmot III, and my granddaughter, Shanti.
Mr. Martin has served over 20 years by the time we met him. Mr. Scandrett has served over 18 years by the time we had met him. I mean, there's nothing like seeing a father hug his children for the first time outside of a prison. There's nothing like seeing a man hug his father, who he wasn't really sure he'd see alive before his release. There's just nothing like seeing families come together.
I kept my head up, got certified in food service, certified cook and baker. I got my certificate through them, through Middle Georgia Technical College. And then I got back in school. I got my GED while I was in there because it was time for me to break that circle I was in.
There have been a few times when clients got out, particularly in Louisiana, and there was an election later in the year. They would send me text messages or videos saying, "I voted for the first time in my life."
That's how Project Freedom, that's what it was doing inside the prison. It was giving people who were hopeless, like myself, hope.
We still get many more requests for representation in this context than we're able to handle.
My hope for the next 10 years is that we grow in ways we can't even imagine at the moment.
I hope Project Freedom get the funding that they need.
I'm glad that there's some help out there for people that's underprivileged, got misrepresented, and didn't have the money to afford a real lawyer, I'm glad there's somebody out there that will reach out and help them.
This wasn't supposed to be a project. When we started working with Mr. Martin and he got home, I thought, well, that was amazing. Let's go back to what we typically do. But when we saw the need and we learned about the many people like Mr. Martin who were fighting for their freedom, we responded, and that's where this project grew. And I think as long as we are never putting ceilings on what we can do. And as long as we are joining people in their fights, I mean, there's no telling what Project Freedom will look like in 10 years. I just imagine it being bigger and stronger and us bringing changes to Georgia that we never would have imagined.